Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, I'm extremely excited to announce our guest for the show, Agostino Pintus. Agostino, thank you so much for being here.
I'm super jazzed up for being here. Thanks for inviting me. Greatly appreciate
Yeah,
it.
definitely. Well, I love so many aspects of your story and really excited to share your journey and just everything that you've accomplished in a short period of time in real estate. So, why don't you take us back to, Agostino has a long career in tech, but let's go back to before that. What was it like growing up? I know you also come from an immigrant family like I do. Tell me how how you started it out with your career and how your family influenced that.
Sure. Well, I grew up in a small town in Canada called Windsor, right across from Detroit. And I always gravitated from a very young age, from the first time I saw a computer, I gravitated to tech, right? Tech was my thing. As soon as I laid eyes on a Commodore PET, which most of your listeners have no idea what that is.
Correct.
When I was in grade 5, when I saw one, right? It was like the first computer rolling into a classroom. Like that was the first time there were computers in the classroom, right? And as soon as I laid eyes on that thing, I'm like, I need to get in front of that thing. I need to learn everything I could. So I dedicated my life to technology. And early on, I wanted to have my own computer company, have my own tech company. I already decided this from when I was like 10
That's amazing.
years old, right? I knew I had to do something like that. I
How
had to
did
be
you
involved with
know
tech.
you needed to be a CEO or have your own company at such a young age? Like, how did you even know that was a thing?
That's the thing is, though, I didn't. All I knew is that I wanted to create games. I wanted to write games. That's all I knew. I wanted to write games and sell them. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like I wasn't familiar with the titles or corporate America
Sure.
or anything else like that. In that vein, because in grade school, like most of the education system, they don't prepare people to build entrepreneur success. They build, which really is right. They train. Uh, they train soldiers. They train good workers. That's what they're looking for. They want obedient workers to be working, like to prepare them for corporate America. That's all they want. They don't want entrepreneurs. They want you to keep your head down, shut your face, and just produce stuff, right?
For sure.
It's from the industrial age. That's really what it is, right?
Hmm.
But I knew that I wanted to have my own thing. That much I did know. And I started writing computer games and stuff like that with what little basic technology that I knew, right? And my parents, so they were of the mindset that that is a high risk proposition to go do something on your own. That's ridiculous. No. You need to go work for a company. That's the safe thing to do, right? Because you get a paycheck, right? I mean, isn't a paycheck safe, right? I mean, why wouldn't it be?
Yeah. My
You know,
parents felt the same way. And so, what industry did your folks work in?
oh, see, and that's the thing. They were laborers from Italy, right?
Hmm.
So, like they came from the generation that they were born and raised on farms. They would, raise cattle. They would till the land. They would do stuff like that. So here in the States, or in Canada rather, my dad did construction. My mother was a seamstress. My mother worked in a factory too. My father worked for an entrepreneur, but he was the low man on the totem pole that would create all the stuff that the owner got to sell, right? What's funny though, interesting lesson there is I remember being a teenager and this entrepreneur ended up selling the company to some other company, right? And it sold everything, and my dad was out of a job in his 40s, and this guy went and moved to Italy, right? So
Uh
he
huh.
made all the money off
Hmm.
my dad's sweat,
Yeah.
and and he's free and clear. My dad ended up having to find another job in his 40s in construction.
Hmm.
It was a tough thing to do to raise a family back
Yeah.
then,
Very tough.
but it's like there's a valuable lesson in there.
Yep. Let's, yeah, definitely. I
To the whole
lost.
tech thing. I was can you hear me?
Okay. I think we lost connection, but I think it's back now. Go ahead.
Okay. So I stayed with the whole tech thing,
Hmm.
and I ended up doing rises to the ranks in technology. So I, of course, went to school, did my undergrad in engineering. I did 2 master's degrees. I
Wait,
did all that.
really quick, I just want to circle back to an important point, which was,
Yeah.
before the show, you were saying that like your parents were somehow successful in conditioning sort of the entrepreneur out of you.
Oh yeah.
And, obviously they had, they had how did they do that basically? I mean, and nothing against them, my parents would have done and probably did do the exact same thing. And so do so many parents, and they love us, and that's just what they know to do. So, but what exactly were those moments like?
Sure. I mean, it's gonna be the same story that I'm sure that many of your listeners have heard from their spouse, from their parents, from their friends, is that to do something on your own, oh my God, it's super high risk. What about your family? What about that paycheck at the end of the week? And you're not going to get any of that. What about healthcare? Oh my God, healthcare. Oh, you can't live without healthcare. And all that stuff was basically they use scare tactics the same way the media uses scare tactics today to cajole people to doing things they don't really want to do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, they were trying to do it with the best intentions, and I don't hate my parents or
Sure.
any of that stuff. Not at all. It's more like this is the prescription that we've been given as a society now, because many people forget that this country that we're in, the United States of America, was really built on entrepreneurship, right? The entrepreneurs are what built this country
Mm-hmm.
originally. Now it's
Absolutely.
not the case. Now it's all done with corporate. Again, I don't hate corporate. It's fine. But for someone who's a young impressionable youth that wanted to do something on my own and being conditioned not to do it, it took a while to recover from that. I mean, I was scared. I mean, so when I told you we're in the green room, we're talking, I've been fired from, like, I don't know, 13, 14 jobs. I honestly have no idea. I lost count. I stopped at like 13. I couldn't think of any more. But I
Yeah, that's
remember,
amazing.
but here's the thing. I remember when I was 25 or 26. I was married at the time, and I remember when I got fired from yet another job, right? And I felt worthless because I allowed the job to define who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a mistake. I see it now of what a mistake it was. When you're going through it, it's kind of like, oh my God, I'm a loser. I got fired. It's terrible. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? It's like it's all on me. And I mean, just like I said before too, if you don't guide your career, go work for some crappy company, and God forbid you say something bad about that company if you're trying to find another job, even though they were a crappy companies out there. There's a lot. Take it from a guy who's been fired from a lot of jobs, a lot of bad companies out there. It wasn't always my fault. There were
Yeah.
times it was my fault, though, I will admit. But
For
yeah,
sure. I mean, and when I asked you, you said, I was like, why have you been fired from 13 jobs? Like, what was your answer?
what was my answer? I'm just not a good employee. I mean, that's as simple as that. I mean, I was born to be an entrepreneur right from the
Yes,
beginning.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Some people aren't. Um, but some people they go to entrepreneurship class and they learn how to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay. You laugh, it's like, but there's people that do it.
Sure.
But I knew that I was an entrepreneur my entire life. My
Yeah.
entire life I've been an entrepreneur. And I wanted to have my own thing, but I was always very, very scared, because it's being an entrepreneur, especially when you're starting out, you especially to do what I did, because I built a whole career in technology management. I mean, I was running large enterprise IT, multi-million-dollar budgets, large team, foreign, domestic teams, all kinds of stuff like that. To go from doing that to just switching it off and doing real estate. That's all. That's totally unrelated fields. That takes some guts to do it. A lot of guts. It was a little scary, but at the same time too, I realized that the last time I got fired, the very last time I got fired, after doing a great job for this company screwed me over yet again, right? I got screwed over by a lot of companies. I asked myself that question: how many more times am I going to put the fate of my career, my life, and the people that depend on me? How many more times can I hand that over to some people that don't give a care about me or them? Like, that's what you're doing when you're working for a company that doesn't really care about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that I'm not doing it anymore. I am exiting this game. I'm unplugging from the matrix. I'm going to do something else, and real estate was it. and it took sacrifice to do it. And we talked a little bit about that sacrifice. Yeah, I mean, I had the big house, the 3-car garage. I had the Mercedes, the Corvette convertible, the Hummers. I had all that stuff. Sold it all. All of it was gone. All of it was gone. And I went without for a long period of time. Well, long, I guess, a couple of years, I guess. That's not really that long, I suppose. But now we've carefully built a great infrastructure with some super partners that I have today. And now we have 1,300 units. We do construction now. We do development. I bought the Rockefeller building in downtown Cleveland. It's going to be $135 million project, that I put together on this deal with, of course, with partners too. We're still acquiring assets. We're getting into triple net business as well. All this stuff. I mean, it wasn't easy. I'm not going to say it was easy. I'm not going to say buy my book and I'm going to show you how in 4 easy steps. No, it was not easy.
Yeah,
it was tough.
For
it was
sure.
tough. And I think that's the chasm that many people are not willing to take. Is that, imagine if I told you, and I mean you being the listener, if I told you that success is waiting for you in 12 months from now, but you have to give up everything right now. You have to give it all up.
Yeah.
And work your ass off for the next 12 months to get to there. Would you do it? And it was guaranteed. Would you do it? And many people wouldn't do it. They don't want to give up. They don't want to give up the comfort.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think that's such an important point it's something that I harp on for sure, is that you have to feel so connected to your why and the vision of what you're moving towards, that you are willing to make those sacrifices, especially early on, that, where you've built this whole life because that's what society's told you to do. And now you're living comfortably and you have, a house, cars, payments, etc., and a certain lifestyle. And sometimes, I think often you have to really scale it back, just like you did. So let's talk a little bit about how you decided to go into real estate. After that last time you got fired, why'd you turn to real estate?
I think I mentioned those 10 dark years that I went through. So after I got fired from that publicly traded company, I was a young CIO, got fired for basically no reason. I still don't completely understand why. Not that I really think about it. I was still in my 30s when that happened. I was kind of scrambling. I was in free fall. I let my whole career go into free fall. And for those 10 years, I stopped buying. I was doing single families. That's how I started in this business, single families, small multifamily. But I stopped. I stopped doing it. And I was just coasting from job to job to job, trying to find anybody that would pay me to do technology management. I would take on consulting roles. I would take on permanent roles. It was terrible. Where there was no why. Without a clear why, like you just said a second ago, without that clear why, it's very hard to know what you're going to do with your life, right? So, and I didn't have it. I did not have it. So it was not until that last time I told you that I was working at this company, fast forward 10, 12 years. And here I am sitting in this conference room with the COO who just started with the company, literally 4 days prior, firing me. Right. And I'm what am I going to do now? Am I going to do this again? No, I'm going to do something else. What am I going to do? Here's the thing. I did have real estate, small portfolio left from the first time when I was doing the single family stuff. And despite all the problems, despite all the issues, I had the IRS after me. I had all kinds of bad stuff that happened to me. And I fixed it all up. No matter what, that check kept on coming in, no matter what, through 2008, because the way that I structured my deals, I was very careful about how I put my deals together. I didn't do no interest only payments on single families back then. I was fixed mortgages, low interest rate, long term. I knew that if the payment is this, the rent is this, I'm going to get this much. I already knew that. That's how I defined it. Very, very low risk type of deals. And I structured it that way on purpose. Despite all the issues, it kept performing. And I'm I'm just going to do real estate. That was the whole thought process. I wish I could say it was Robert Kiyosaki's book. I wish I could say it was some other, I had a discussion, I had some epiphany. No, it was it was logic. I mean, fortunately, I got into it to begin with because I wasn't even thinking about real estate until a friend of mine told me about it. But it was like that was the epiphany. Then it's like, okay, well, what exactly am I going to do in real estate? So it's like now I knew I was going to do real estate, but I didn't know what I was going to do in real estate, because in real estate, as you know, a lot of asset classes, a lot of different things you can do. And it wasn't until I had a conversation with this real estate attorney. So there's a challenge that I heard about, and I forget where I heard about this challenge, and I can challenge the audience right now to do this, is that you go on LinkedIn and you send a message to like 3 people every day that could change your life. You send a message to them and invite them for a coffee, invite them to maybe guest on a blog post or a podcast if you have one or whatever. But it's 3 people that you look up to. They're big shots and they can change your life. Those are the 3. Every single day you do that for a month, and you'll see like you're gonna get a lot of rejection. But if you just get one, that one person will change your life. And that's what I did. I did this. I was doing this before, and that one person changed the whole course of my life. It actually worked.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am. I'm in Virginia after getting fired from this job. I was living in one of my houses, and I'm sitting there talking to him. He happened to be a real estate attorney. I was looking outside my car window, and I see this 30-unit apartment building. And I'm like, who owns buildings? Like, and I'm like, who owns them? Like, does a bank own them? Like, who owns them? He's like, no, people own them. I go, what people? Who? What do you mean? And he explained syndication to me and how you put deals together, the GP, the LP, the how to raise money, the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, well, I could do that. I mean, I used to do that in corporate all the time. I'd make my pitch, raise money, like whatever money I need to do, whatever projects needed to get done. I mean, that's what I did, so I could do this. And so I started, I said, that's what I'm going to do. And I committed 100% to doing that business. So I got to studying it all on my own. Back then, there were no gurus on Facebook that were teaching this stuff. That just didn't exist. I mean, Facebook existed, but not like now. There's these gurus all over the place selling all kinds of programs with this stuff. But I had to like figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
And but that's what it was.
I mean, you just dropped so many bombs right there. Like the fact that I'm not sure who it was who told you to reach out to who was it who told you to reach out to 3 people on LinkedIn every day?
It was I was watching a video on LinkedIn, and someone put this challenge out there. Like I wasn't even looking for it. It just someone put this challenge out there, so I just went ahead and did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's amazing. And just knowing that you're going to get a lot of rejection, and then just that one person's could change your life, and then talking to that person, and then deciding in that moment that you're going to do this business. Like that deciding moment is such a powerful moment. And there was a lot leading up to that, like your whole life was leading up to it. But if you never get to that moment where you're like deciding I'm going to do this, then you'll never do it. Right. And so such important stuff. So sorry, continue with your story.
No, but to reflect back on that though, that decision point that's oftentimes the hardest part, because it requires that person to basically change who they are, or at least commit to changing who they are. Because the guy I am today is not the same guy that started in this business. Like back then I was a corporate guy, right? I'm not saying that I'm like, I certainly look the same. I talk the same. Like I'm the same guy. Of course I'm the same guy. But what I mean though is that I committed to building the mindset, to building the habits necessary to build success that I was not even remotely close to doing previous to this, right? I would get up at, late 7 a.m., go to take a shower, throw on your clothes, go roll into work, do the same thing you say every day. Good morning, blah, blah, blah. You dread Mondays and you pray for Fridays. That's what I was living. That was life. And it's life like that for millions of people around the United States, right? The people that say, oh, I love my job. Yeah, I'm sure you love dragging your ass into a company that, a bunch of people that don't appreciate you. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. I would rather be sipping a Mai Tai in Miami or something, but whatever. Anyway.
Yeah. For sure.
but
I mean, I'm sure
but
there are some, but it's few and far between, right? That people really
yeah,
love their job.
exactly. And the thing is though, is that now to experience true freedom the way I do today is, I mean, hey, I'm not going to say it's all sunshine and rainbows,
Totally.
but there's never, ever, ever, ever been a day, no matter how bad it gets, that I say, oh my God, I wish I was working in corporate. Oh, I would give all this up just to get that paycheck, a paycheck. A paycheck is a payment on your giving up your dreams. It's all it is. It's all it
Totally.
is. They pay you just enough just to keep you quiet and keep you still. That's what it's for, right?
For sure. And I mean, I think it is important to get past that hurdle. Like, I mean, I did at one point, as I mentioned before the show, like at one point I did go back to work because
Yeah,
I did just want a paycheck again. Like I was just tired and I needed, I needed to get like a W-2 so I could, et cetera, buy real estate, take a home equity line of credit out. And, you have to get past that hurdle where you're like not willing to give up your freedom for a paycheck.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's good and it's hard, but the way that I did it was and again, I learned all this on my own. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wish someone had told me all this, would have saved some time, but I committed to writing down my goals. It's simple. I mean, I know it sounds like foo-foo nonsense, right? Because I'm sure everybody has heard all this
So
already in other
no one
places.
ever told you to write down your goals.
No one has ever told me.
Okay, awesome. You figured it out on your
When
own.
it, in what class did someone say to you, okay, if you had unlimited amounts of money, unlimited amounts of time, and you can be anywhere on this planet, write down your goals, write down 25 things of what your life would look like. When has that discussion ever taken place?
Not in
I can,
school, that's for sure. But I mean, now there's
right.
like a lot of different, the
Yeah, there's
self-help
plenty of people
people.
that
Yeah.
do. Yeah, 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 yeah. But back then there was no such thing. So
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this stuff. So I picked that up somewhere and I started doing that. And it's like, okay, if I had unlimited resources, what would my life look like? And I started designing my life.
Mhm.
And I said, like, I wrote this down. Oh God, it's so funny because I'll find old notebooks of when I wrote all this down. It's like, I'm gonna have like I'm gonna have 100 units. And what's funny is that we were just talking about this just before the show. It's like I just bought 212 units like last week. It's like I just
Yeah.
bought them and I'm already moving on to the next deal. It's like I'm looking to build 100 units now on the side while I got this other stuff going. That's how funny it is, right? But back then, I just said, okay, I'm gonna have 100 units. I'm gonna provide investors a 12% return, and they're gonna be very happy. I'm gonna have a home in South America. I'm writing down all these things down as if it's already happening. And without that important, crucial step of defining what you want to see in your life, it'll never happen. It'll never, ever, ever happen. Right? People just go from day to day to day, and they think that they have a vision, they think they have a dream, but until it's defined, it's not. It's nothing. That's the thing that sucks. And I mean, just like you said a second ago, no one really told us this stuff. I mean, now they do. You hear about it more often than we
Yeah.
used to,
Yeah. But
like
not
say
in school
15 years
still. It
ago.
doesn't seem
No,
like it's taught in school still.
no, no, no. Even when I took entrepreneur class, I did take an entrepreneur class. We were
Yeah.
talking about that too. The green room was hilarious. I took an entrepreneur class in university, and they never told me any of that stuff. I don't remember any
Right.
of that.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
They're
yeah,
just
it's
like, this is the
crazy.
chapters in a business plan. Now go make a business plan or etc. So, okay. So
Exactly.
what else did you have to sacrifice? We know it was hard. We know you sold your house and your cars. Were you doing this did you have to get anyone to agree to this, or was it just you that you were doing it for?
So I will say this. At the time, I so he like this friend said that I have to go like raise money, right, to learn how to raise money, right. So and
Yeah.
I knew like how to pitch and how to talk to people. I'm very confident. I know how to do that, but I never technically raised money before, especially raised money for multifamily, of which I didn't even own. Right, I didn't own any of that stuff. It didn't, like I had a bunch of single family stuff left that was trying to sell off as much as I could, and like of that entire portfolio, of one house left in Virginia that I'm looking to sell to the tenant that lives there right now. So, like it's still to this very day, it was just kind of funny. But what's funny is that um, I would say that once I had a little nest egg of cash, I bought a multifamily deal in Akron, right? It's a little 11 unit deal, right? And I happened to stumble on it because it was listed in the wrong place. That's the only reason, right? It was 11 units, and I paid like I stole this deal. I paid like I don't know, 12, 13,000 a door or something.
Wow. Wow.
Ridiculous,
That's
ridiculous, right?
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so what happened was it was listed on the MLS, not on, like, it wasn't even listed with a commercial broker. I just happened to be on the MLS. I see this thing. I'm like, what's this? What's going on? Is this right? So I call the agent. It was a real estate agent. She says, oh yeah, it's 11 units. So I go look at it. The guy started building a 12th unit, and I'm like, okay, I'll do this deal. And I just had barely enough money to get for the down payment, and I had to get like a hard money loan because my credit was shot at the time. Right now, everything's cleaned up. But when you go through a divorce, it really wrecks with your credit, right? So that's all fixed now. But back then, I did anything I took to get to that first deal.
Totally.
But in my mind, I felt that if I'm going to go out there and pitch people, I have to at least have one deal of my own.
Yeah.
That's just me. I mean, some people don't do that, and it's okay if they don't,
Sure.
But I felt that, like, if I'm going to do a deal, and remember, I moved to Ohio. I did not know a soul here. So here I'm a new guy in town. I'm going to try to convince people to sell. So I'm going to, I'm going to do you need to invest money with me because I'm going to go buy real estate.
Yeah.
Like, what? What are you talking about? I have to at least own something. So that's what I did, and I found the deal. Why not do it? And we sold. I just sold that deal recently for like 35 a door. Ridiculous.
That's awesome. And
ridiculous.
that brings up another thing that you did was you moved to Ohio for real estate. Can you tell me about that decision and why you did it?
So when I was living in Virginia at the time, I moved to Virginia to go live in a house because I had nowhere else to go, right? And I was like, okay, I told my girlfriend, who's now my wife, I told her, I said, you know what? She'd only known me for like a month or something. I said, I'm going to work for a company one last time. I'm going to consult. I will never work for anybody ever again. I made a promise that I'll never do this. This is the last time, right? Last time. I'm not doing this ever again. And I ended up researching the different markets. I found that at the time, Cleveland was still hadn't fully recovered from 2008. Still the market was somewhat depressed. The rents were very, very low. And I'm like, you know what? That's where we need to go. I packed everything I owned in the car, like everything we owned in the car, and drove here.
And that's because you wanted to buy low.
Because I wanted to buy low, and
you had faith in the market.
I had faith in the market because here's the one thing I also knew at the time, which proved to be right, is that here. So this used to be oil and gas, believe it or not. Cleveland used to be oil and gas. Used to be like Rockefeller was. Many people don't know this, but Rockefeller, oil and gas guy, he started his business here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Most people don't know that, and they shifted to healthcare. So I knew that there's healthcare, there's Goodyear's based out of Akron, Smucker's Jam is based out of here. There's all these other healthcare systems here, So it wasn't just reliant on manufacturing and really volatile industries, right? So I knew that, and I'm like, okay, I can make this work. I mean, I think that, and I was looking at some of the different asset classes. I didn't quite understand real estate because my underwriting was still very weak at the time. I was still practicing how to underwrite deals properly, but I knew that there were deals to be had, right? I knew that, and nobody was watching this market. Everybody was focused on Texas, North Carolina, Kentucky, or Tennessee rather, all these other markets which are still very super hot today. But back then, nobody was talking about Cleveland. Now everybody's talking about Cleveland, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I decided, okay, you know what, I'm going to come here. And I picked up a consulting gig and started doing that while trying to buy assets, as many as I can. I would after work, I would get in my car, drive areas, get to know the area, get to know the markets, set up meetings with brokers, talk to them. I mean, before I talked to them, I would get educated on who they are, know the terminology. I mean, it wasn't like I just cold called people and they just meet with me. It was way harder for
Yeah.
me. It always is for people starting out. Always
Yeah.
is. No introductions, no nothing, right? So yeah, I mean, it was tough, but I chose this market. I'm still active in this market. I still only buy in this market. I still only buy and build here. I am looking at other markets, but I know this market,
Yeah.
and
And
I
so
know
that
this.
worked for you. It worked to
Yeah,
go to a place where people hadn't yet recovered. What year was
yeah.
that when you moved to Cleveland?
Was I what now?
What year was that?
Oh wow, so that would have been about, I don't know, 3.5, 4 years ago.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Wow. So it really took a long time to recover. That's pretty impressive. I mean, and also just, just give the listeners an idea of what you've accomplished since that you moved to Cleveland, which was only like 4 years ago or so.
Sure, sure, sure. So yeah, I mean, at the time, yeah, it was tough. It was really tough because I was consulting. I was, didn't have the house and the backyard and all that stuff. I was, basically living in hotels and that kind of thing until I finally got an apartment. But started with one deal, like that little 11 unit that turned into a 12 unit. And then from there, we ended up scaling it to now I'm going to be closing on another deal coming up here next week. It's going to be 1,300 units of multifamily, all multifamily communities, right? So we're also doing that. So we're doing development as well. So we're doing a ground up development right now near Cleveland Clinic. And then, of course, the Rockefeller building, which I mentioned before, it's going to be a $135 million deal. It's going to be a phenomenal deal. This is actually the office that John D. Rockefeller used to live in, or work in rather. He used to work here. So we're doing a multifamily conversion. We're going to convert this asset to multifamily, from office to multifamily. It's going to be phenomenal. It's a Class A asset. It's going to be great. And then what else are we doing? We're going to start doing some more single family stuff, getting back into the whole seller finance type of model, because I do see that there's a shift coming in terms of I'm not gonna say it's as bad as 2008, but there's gonna be a lot of people are gonna need homes, and we're gonna be positioned in a way to help those people get into homes by offering seller financing and bank alternative financing, right? So working on that as well. And of course, single tenant triple net, which is a great business to be in, to offer investors that steady monthly return,
Yeah.
that many investors look for. So, but the nuts and bolts of it, 1,300 units. God, it's going to be a lot of development projects already. It's going to be phenomenal year so far. It's been great, and I'm having fun doing it. Having a lot of fun doing it.
For sure. Well, Agostino, that's just an amazing, it's amazing accomplishments that you've made in the last 4 years in real estate. Obviously, you had done some before, but I'm just really so pleased to hear. I mean, we could continue talking about all your projects going forward for a lot longer, but thank you so much for coming on the show. Please give the listeners a way to, learn more about you, get a hold of you. Anything else you'd like to share?
Sure. So bulletproofcashflow.com. It's a great way to get a hold of me there. Also, we have a podcast. Go ahead, check that one out as well. And then, of course, we also do live events online as well. So if you have any questions, whatever, I'm always here to help people out. I'd like to help people get into this business and really help them. I love seeing people succeed at this. So I really do believe, to the core of my being, that real estate is the way to help people achieve freedom. There's no other business out there that allows people to do it as easily as real estate does, so that's just what I think anyway. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, obviously, I'm in agreement with that. That's why I'm here. And so I hope you all have a chance to check out Agostino's podcast and website and see what he's up to, because he's up to some amazing things. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.